Hello everyone, welcome back to Affinity for Commander. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new Aurelia Law Above from the upcoming Murders at Karlov Manor set. Remember, if you like any of the cards I'm going to be talking about here today, then be sure to make your purchase through any of our lovely affiliate links in the description box below. Using these links does not cost you anything extra, but really helps the channel out quite a lot. And as always, all the prices you see on screen today will be supplied through the fabulous cardmarket.com, and our deck list can be found over on TCG Home. Plus, an extra special part of this deck tech, since it's just been Christmas, so cash is all tight right now, I'm going to be making sure to keep this deck's budget under €100. And it's still going to be just as powerful. Now, let's get into the one who is above the law. See how I did that? Because she's law above, but she's an angel, so she's flying and she's above the law. Let's just see the card. Aurelia Law Above is a 4/4 legendary creature angel for 3 generic, 1 red and 1 white mana. She has flying, vigilance, haste, and reads: whenever a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, you draw a card. And whenever a player attacks with 5 or more creatures, Aurelia the Law Above deals 3 damage to each of your opponents, and you gain 3 life. Okay, so first thing is we just kind of have to accept that Boros and whites generally just aren't going to get any legitimate card draw ever, so okay. But Aurelia is probably the closest we're going to get to it, and it's a very, very good ability. And the fact that it triggers on each player is just great. This, in some sort of weird backwards way, might actually stop people from attacking with their boards, because it will prevent us from drawing cards from them doing so. A smart move to be sure. Not one we're going to give them though. This deck is going to be all about forcing combat and goading every creature left, right and diagonal. That way we get a huge amount of Aurelia triggers, and also, lightning helixing the table is just kind of funny. So, let's start with the 1-drops. Right out of the gate, if we want to incentivize attackers, then Curse of Opulence is a great way to do so. That treasure will surely help the minor screwed player out, as well as us, obviously. We've then got some red draw in Faithless Looting, a removal spell in Swords to Plowshares, because after the creature is attacked and we've drawn, we still don't want to get hit by that Blight still connecting, thank you very much. Surge of Salvation is a great protection spell, and can even be a neat combat trick to prevent damage from black or red creatures. And finally at 1CMC we have Secure the Waste, a means of instantly installing a board in someone's end step, to then swing out next turn for those sweet, sweet Aurelia triggers. Moving up to the 2-drops, we've got the only type of ramp we're realistically allowed, and that is Artifact Ramp. Boros Signet, Arcane Signet, Talisman of Conviction and Mind Stone round off this collection of mana accelerants. I would also then put in Knight of the White Orchid and Loyal Warhound into a similar category, as they do however rely on opponents having more lands than us, but provided we haven't gone first, that usually isn't an issue. Sword of the Animist also puts a land into play, which, considering we've meant to be attacking every single turn, this little equipment should hopefully be grabbing every single basic out of our deck in no time. Since our deck is about attacking, let's see some support. Boros Charm to either protect our creatures from board wipes or give a big old bit of double strike. Chivalric Alliance is a smaller version of Aurelia's ability put onto it, plus an option to create dudes should we start flooding out. Legion's Initiative gives a nice buff to our creatures depending on their colours, and can also act as board wipe insurance. Speaking of board wipe insurance, Grand Crescendo is Secure the Wastes on steroids. It does the same thing, but for 1 more white mana, so 1 less body on resolution, but we do get to make our board indestructible. Just imagine someone going to wipe your board, only for you to make it indestructible and make your board bigger. A truly hilarious card. And the last 2 cards of 2CMC are ones that are a real start for our deck's theme. Grenzo Havoc Raiser and the background Popular Entertainer. Grenzo and the background are here for the same reason, to goad as many of our opponent's creatures as possible. This not only prevents us being attacked, reduce the number of blockers our opponent has, but will also draw us cards from Aurelia's ability. At the 3-drop slot, we've got a little bit more gold, but mainly supporters for our attacking creatures. Our last bit of ramp in Commander's Sphere and a Catcher's Monument, with the Monument pulling double duty as a token generator as well. And speaking of tokens, Goblin Spymaster generates each opponent an adorable little gobbo that ensures combat steps aren't just skipped through. And Call the COPPA Coats is one of my favourite mass token generators, which can just lead to you having more creatures than all of your opponents combined. But back to our main mechanic, Goad. Coronation of Chaos lets us get in for some damage by removing blockers and make sure those creatures are striking back at someone else. Day of the Moon is just a wonderfully annoying card to get other people to attack into either bad blockers or just remove a creature through combat damage. And finally, Glowing Dwarf Emissary can generate a tidy bit of treasure, but is primarily here to use that treasure for more goading action. Since we're attacking so much, let's take a look at some help in the combat step. Duelist's Heritage grants double strike to an attacking creature, which can also be used on one of your opponent's goaded creatures as well. Rising of the Day gives all our attackers haste and a nice half anthem effect, and Combat Celebrant lets us have more combat steps on our turn, provided, it just doesn't die in the first round. A sweet pair of equipment in Loxodon Warhammer and Sunforge will be seeing us hitting harder and hopefully gaining back some of that life we're bound to lose from all this combat going around. But this hot hammer over here is an equipment we'll probably never be hitting with, as it's mainly there for the ability to grab a swords or a chaos warp when needed. Now up to the 4-drops, and here we're taking combat very seriously, by breaking all of its rules. Firstly, who needs blockers? Bedlam says that you are not attacking and holding back is absolutely pointless, so just hit someone. Anger is here to be discarded to Faithless Looting and then grant all our creatures haste, and just in case you thought Bedlam was the only weird card here, Grand Melee is a format I highly do not recommend playing unless you want to lose at least half a day. But it is an exquisite card that's going to make that control deck regret playing a low toughness commander. But this isn't chaotic enough just yet. Let's have some war games for more goading action. And a card I absolutely love is Disrupt Decorum. A simple 4-mana sorcery that ensures a no crackback and an emptier field with lower life totals by the time it gets back round to our turn. Now that that's out the way, let's actually look at the creatures we have to be attacking. Aurelia, Exemplar of Justice, has a cheeky mentor effect and a good buff to our multicolored creatures. Bruchtal for both the beef factor, and both Double Strike and Lifelink on ETB and attack are still excellent. Fumiko, the Low Blood, is another combat enabler, but also an excellent blocker stroke attacker. Life of the Party is just, honestly, it's this deck in a card. A big, hasty attacker that forces our opponents to attack with a big creature. Seeker of Slaanesh, meanwhile, at least lets your opponents choose which creature they attack with. And Eowyn Fearless Knight is sorcery speed removal for an opponent's biggest thing that can also grant our attackers protection to get in for that bit more damage. The last 3 cards I want to talk about here are the 2 Odrics who, with Aurelia out, grant our entire board flying, vigilance and haste, which is excellent for ensuring combat damage and still having blockers up. While the other Odric is honestly just a game winner when we'll be attacking with 3 creatures, triggering Aurelia to draw a card, and then just deciding that no blockers are going to be declared to get straight into our opponent's life totals. This is also seen in Master Warcraft, a card with a bit more versatility, and then we can decide our opponents are attacking with everything and being blocked by everything another opponent has, which, if timed right, can just be a near one-sided board wipe at instant speed. On to the tippity top of our curve, and do remember here, we're not just attacking for the sake of attacking. I mean, we do want to win the game eventually, but we're goading all these creatures and attacking ourselves to trigger both of Aurelia's abilities to draw cards and deal damage. Disrupt Decorum is a perfect example of this, as with Aurelia out, by the time it gets back round to our turn, we're hopefully having drawn 3 additional cards from at least 3 creatures attacking on each of our opponent's turns, and hopefully maybe lightning helix the table at least once. Just want to make sure we got that clear. Okay, brilliant. Let's head to the high CMCs. Let's continue with our goading antics with Belleroth Batriel, an elf that causes all weenies to attack our opponents, and should any goaded creatures die when attacking or blocking, we get treasure tokens, a great static effect in this deck. Torn from the Rampart is another version of Disrupt Decorum, but this time even prevents them from blocking so we can get in for some good damage and fear absolutely no crackback. And Geode Ranger ensures consistent goad triggers, provided we keep hitting our land drops of course. Rionia Fire Dancer doesn't goad any creatures, but does give us hopefully at least one more creature to attack with to trigger Aurelia's ability to draw us more cards. And Archangel Avacyn, a lovely bit of a flying board wipe insurance, but you know, if she's having a bad day and one of our creatures does die during all this combat, then a small board wipe and bolting of each opponent is completely understandable. Speaking of board wipes, we don't want a lot as we really need creatures to be around to take advantage of all this goading we're doing. But just in case things get a little bit out of hand, Blasphemous Act does deal 13 damage to everything, Elspeth's Sun's Champions -3 to get rid of all big creatures and, you know, start pumping out dudes for us. And finally, my favourite, Sun Blast Angel. Because if all our opponents are just attacking, well, unless they've got Vigilance, that means they're all tapped, boyo, and then now, with the Angel, gonna go bye-bye. The last few cards I want to talk about from the deck are essentially our win cons. The first being Mob Rule, a card that lets us steal either the biggest creature on the board or all the tokens that Slimefoot player has been making, and just wreak havoc with them. And to help us do this, we have Gisela, Blade of Gold Knight, who, for that high cost of 7 mana, is reducing our damage taken from attackers, but doubles it for our opponents, ensuring a very quick end to the game. And that's it for the majority of the deck. Now let's go on to the lands for our Boros commander, and there are a few important ones to take note of. Minas Tirith for some conditional card draw, but it is a condition we'll be fulfilling each turn anyway. Spine Rock Knoll for free casting a card when we do significant damage, and Sunhome Fortress of the Legion, because nothing says making friends like doubling damage from our commander in the air. Or even giving it to one of our opponent's goaded creatures for max damage and some political plays. Now I can sit here all day and night and complain about how Mono White and Boros in general will never get actual genuine good card draw, but Aurelia is exactly what I think it needs. Boros is the attacky colours, and giving card draw when you're essentially playing your deck normally is, I think, the best way to filter in card draw into this type of deck. But also I love Aurelia, good stats, lovely keywords, and is just so angry. Now if that's not Boros, I don't know what is. She's probably one of my favourite Boros commanders ever, mainly because she has the words draw a card on her. But aside from that, she's fantastic, she's powerful, and she does everything Boros wants to be doing. Hitting, hitting, and then a little bit more hitting. And that will be the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. What are your thoughts on Aurelia? Do you think she's great, or do you think she's just another Boros commander to throw in the pile? Let us know in the comments below. We read every single one of them. As always, this content is made possible thanks to the support of our amazing patrons. You guys are truly awesome. If you too like to become a patron of the channel and get access to exclusive EDH-related rewards, then be sure to check out our links in the video description. You can also support the channel a few other quick and easy ways, liking this video, commenting, subscribing, or sharing it on your preferred social media platform. But that'll be it from me for now, guys. As always, I've been Alex, and I will see you next time.